Hey everyone, this is Stu with the Military Officer Real Estate Investment Club, and we're talking with Rob Roy. What's up, Rob? How are you?
Hey, Stu, how are you?
I'm good, man. So, Rob, you just moved recently to Annapolis, our alma mater there at United States Naval Academy.
That's right. Beat Army. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice, man. This is the RFI, request for information, kind of a new video series I've started. And my question to you, I know you just kind of bought a house and have turned it into an Airbnb rental. So you're kind of doing the house hacking thing. So my RFI to you is going to be, how did you start your house hacking and Airbnb business?
Well, I mean, it wasn't the most obvious thing to do, that's for sure, because when I got orders to come to Annapolis and work at the Naval Academy from Virginia Beach, Norfolk area, obviously I thought Hampton Roads was an expensive market for the East Coast. I was definitely mistaken coming to Annapolis, even much more so. So I was like, well, how can I house hack? Essentially, like, I would love to buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex in this area. Did a lot of digging, found out it was pretty much impossible. I think I stumbled across a duplex literally for like $650,000. So just crazy market here. So, okay, that's not a viable option. What else can I do? And my wife and I, we were kind of looking around the area and trying to figure out what would be a good way to get into the house hacking market. And so what Annapolis has is a lot of split level houses. It's just a big part of Annapolis, Eastport, Arnold, Cape St. Clair, a lot of split levels. So we were thinking, okay, well, we could buy a split level. A lot of them already have separate entrances around the back that are pretty easy to get into with a staircase, and a lot of them had walled off staircases. And we're like, all right, we'll slap on a full door, permanent locked door, put a kitchenette in there, and they've got a full bath and 2 bedrooms, and hey, we're good to go. Did some talking to the realtor. She's like, hey, yeah, you're fine. Well, once I started doing some due diligence down the road, I essentially called the zoning office, and they're like, actually, that's definitely not okay. There was a couple caveats. They're like, well, you need to live in the property, 1, and 2, it needs to be over 14,000 square feet. The property does. Well, that was hard enough as it was to find a property over 14,000 square feet in my price range, like a $400,000 range. And then I already plan on moving out of the property, and I'm military, obviously. So in 3 years' time, I will be gone from this area. So that's not a viable option. So we were looking at the split levels, the idea of getting a full-time tenant downstairs while we lived upstairs. And then once I left, we were going to have 2 full-time tenants. Well, that's the only way that would work cash line wise. If I bought that and turned it into a single-family rental in this market, it would not be anywhere near 1% RTB, and it just would not work. So then we're like, okay, what else can we do? And I heard a podcast on Bigger Pockets specifically about Airbnb, and that's kind of when the light bulb went off and said, hey, Airbnb, that could be a great viable option in Annapolis. And sure enough, I looked on my phone real quick, and boom, there was just a ton of Airbnbs. And I went to the academy, class of 11, last for a summer. But I know, from experience, that this market, I mean, it's huge for Naval Academy in general, weddings, graduation, commission week, football games, just people come to the capital from DC. It's a big market. I think there's probably only a couple weeks slowdown in the wintertime. So okay, so then we kind of dialed it back. At the time, my house was still, I was selling it in Chesapeake, in Virginia Beach area. And so I actually didn't even qualify for anywhere near $400,000 at that point. So we were kind of limited we were kind of closer below the $300,000 range. So like, okay, what can we do? So we stumbled across a couple of townhouses we really liked. They were gone within days. So we finally got serious, and we came up to Annapolis 5 times in 8 weekends. And we had exactly in mind what we wanted to do. We wanted to buy a townhouse with a separate entrance downstairs, preferably in the Annapolis mailing address, as opposed to Arnold or somewhere else, so that it pops on Airbnb, and have it with a full bath. That was the big, not necessarily a bedroom downstairs, but a full bath. That was key. And it took some digging around. We kind of started to figure out what neighborhoods would work, but we found one, and we jumped on it. And so I just actually cleared everything out and just put on Airbnb just a couple days ago. So still waiting for our actual first guest to arrive, but I've already booked at this point. But our goal right now is to rent out the bottom unit while we're living here, and then a year from now plan on moving out, renting out the whole townhouse full time on Airbnb, and go buy another property with the remainder of my VA loan, and then kind of repeat that process, hopefully leave Annapolis with 2 or 3 properties under my belt, in addition to hopefully, actually investing in a market that makes sense for 20% down outside of Annapolis. So that's kind of how the idea on the light bulb went off. So, hey, how do we house hack an expensive market? And that was kind of the way to do it. So I'm very hopeful for the future and hope it'll work out well. So, and my wife's on board, which is a huge plus. So.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's such a great idea, and key is, in more of an expensive market to do the house hack. And just, for everyone, watching this, so the definition of house hack, what do you see it as the definition of a house hack?
So I think that really at the end of the day, it comes down to offsetting in some capacity or totally covering your mortgage expense. Whether that means you have a roommate in your house. So let's say you're a single guy and you buy a house and you literally rent out your 2 rooms and there you go. Or a more traditional sense, and one thing I've heard a lot, which I think is the best way to do it, is buy a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, which, if for those of you that don't know, that's considered residential property. And it's much easier depending on how you look at it, financing in that regard. So you could buy a fourplex, let's say, if you were like stationed somewhere for the Air Force guys, somewhere in like the Southwest. I mean, there's some really cheap markets in Texas. You could buy a fourplex literally for $200,000, live in one unit and rent out the other 3 units. That's house hacking. My idea was literally the first time I heard of the word house hacking with Airbnb being involved, but I think that's essentially what it is. And especially in this really expensive market, that's the only thing that I could do that would make sense. So that's kind of what the idea is, that you're having renters in some capacity. For me, it would be short-term renters, but renters, money coming in through your house as an asset to help offset your mortgage, if not cover it. So that's kind of our goal.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So have you kind of looked at, if you are doing the Airbnb, how many nights would it take to basically cover your mortgage?
Well, I mean, it depends, because it's not as simple as, hey, we've got a tenant here for 6 months or a year. Each night. I mean, I could have it listed for in the $70 range, for a weeknight in the wintertime, but come weekends in the summer, it could be in the hundreds, even just my little basement downstairs, because I can't tell you how many times that I've come to Annapolis in the last couple of months and I've literally called 16 hotels and have not found a room. I mean, the demand for housing is huge here. So to answer your question, it could be commissioning week. It could be that entire week. You could literally, I mean, houses rent for thousands of dollars. I don't have a house for rent. I would have my little unit. Actually, in that regard, we've talked about moving out for just during that week, specifically just to you could literally pay for a vacation. But I would say 5 to 10 nights would be a huge plus. Anything over that is just icing on the cake. I mean, at that point, I would probably be getting really close to covering my mortgage. And then if I had to rent for 20 nights out of 30, I mean, you're totally in the green, in the black at that point. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Hey, so that's great action steps for folks to kind of take a look at, especially in more expensive markets, and kind of being creative and creating your own, location and place where you can have extra income coming in on the side. So it's a great idea, man. So this leads into your new business idea and your new website called AnnapolisBound.com.
Correct. Yep.
Cool. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So right now I manage a property in Southwest Florida for one of our friends. Just something I did on the side. Long story short, he had to rent it out to a full-time tenant for a year. After 6 months, they left, kind of destroyed a little bit of the house. They put some money into it and they couldn't get it rented again. Dead season, Southwest Florida. And I said, hey, let me put an Airbnb for you just for giggles. And sure enough, I did that. And he cash flowed about $700 more than what he was expecting from getting a normal lease. And I was like, okay, well, if I can do that from Virginia, Annapolis area, and I'm not in Florida, I can do it here locally as well. And once you have a cleaning person in place and a handyman, it takes care of itself, generally speaking. I mean, I'm just on my phone, on a computer, answering a couple of inquiries, being really proactive that way. So the goal, I thought, with Annapolis Bound was I kind of got inspired when I went to Lake Tahoe and I stayed in an Airbnb, and it wasn't through a person, it was through like a website. And I was like really blown away. I was like, I thought you had to be an individual to go on Airbnb. Well, this website, they did exactly what I'm trying to do, but they were specific for Lake Tahoe. There are several others out there that are like national, but I really liked how like this Lake Tahoe one was just Lake Tahoe. And so I was like, well, I kind of did some research. There's really nothing in Annapolis that does that. There's one that does long-term stays, but it's a very old website. But I was like, if I could go around and start knocking on doors, sending out flyers, mailers, and say, hey, you've got a basement, hey, you've got a guest house, or hey, if you're leaving, let me know. There are plenty of people in this town that just don't know about the possibilities. I mean, Annapolis is kind of blessed because it's always been a short-term rental market, but it's always been very traditional and like, oh, we're going to leave during this week of the year. But a lot of people have houses on the water, and they're probably going to be okay with having an extra bedroom be leased out for a couple nights out of the year. So the goal with AnnapolisBound was to go around, capture that market, and I would put it on listing them. I would list it for them on Airbnb, VRBO, HomeAway, all that good stuff. Have it, get a cleaning company in place, not start a company, but just get cleaners in place, get handyman, and I'm local so I can drive around. So yeah, that's kind of the goal is, and I'll be quite honest with you, I haven't actually got any clients yet. I just created a website about a few weeks ago and just moved to Annapolis, started working in the academy, and my wife's pregnant. So it's been a crazy time, but yeah, that's the goal is to start locking in clients the next couple weeks and months. And then by the summertime, we'll hopefully have, 10, 20, 30 people that are going to be sponsored through AnnapolisBound, help get their properties on Airbnb and other short-term rental websites. So.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. I love the entrepreneurial spirit, and and really anybody can do this business. And I wish you the best of luck. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it. For everyone watching, go to AnnapolisBound.com. If you're going to go to Annapolis, check out Rob's home and rent out his Airbnb. Thanks a lot, Rob. I appreciate it, man.
All right, so many thanks to you. I mean, yourself and the other guys on Morac have been super instrumental in helping me with these ideas. I reached out to you several times and other guys on your website, and it wasn't just an idea that I created. It was kind of this compilation of ideas that came from guys like yourself. So thank you very much, and I think there's really strength in numbers to help each other out. So I appreciate it.
Sure thing, bud. Here's to our success.
Absolutely.
See ya.
Yeah.